May I request the Director of Protocol to guide us through the following several hours? Thank you.
Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs de délégation, nous sommes heureux de vous accueillir ici, honorés d'ailleurs, à l'occasion de cette 18e session extraordinaire du Conseil exécutif. Nous sommes présentement présents ici en ce moment pour la séance d'ouverture qui s'articulera autour de 3 discours, notamment le discours d'ouverture de son Excellence Louise Mushikiwabo, qui est ministre des Affaires étrangères de Mushikiwabo, qui est ministre des Affaires étrangères, de la coopération et de la communauté de l'Afrique de l'Est de la République du Rwanda et en même temps présidente en exercice du Conseil exécutif. Nous aurons ensuite l'allocution de son Excellence Madame Vera Songwe, secrétaire exécutive de la Commission président de la Commission de l'Union africaine. Sans plus tarder, je voudrais inviter son Excellence Madame Louise Mushikiwabo pour son discours d'ouverture.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Louise Mushikiwabo. In the language of Rwanda, Kinyarwanda, it means their sister. So I am your sister standing here before you. Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Vera Songwe, head of the ECA, honorable ministers, dear sisters, brothers, colleagues from across our continent, the AUC commissioners and staff here present, representatives of regional economic communities, African Union partners, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Kigali. Most of you are already feeling at home. Also my city of birth. I recognize very many familiar faces in this room. For those whose first time this is, we want you to feel among good friends, and we invite you to take the time to visit the city. I was going to apologize for the rain, but some of our relatives from the Sahel said it's a blessing, so I won't apologize for the rain. We wish that this time in Kigali be a time of work, but also a time to mingle, to exchange, to get to know each other better. Your Rwandan brothers and sisters wish you a very pleasant stay here in Rwanda. I am just extremely pleased to take part in this 18th extraordinary session of the Executive Council of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Let me also thank very sincerely our permanent representatives who met in Kigali on 17th March, and I thank them for the invaluable work done in preparing for our session today. Thank you very much, the PRC. As a flagship project of Agenda 2063, the AFCFTA is one of our key milestones, a change that Africa has been envisioning for decades, among many other flagship projects. I am therefore glad to see many of us reunited here to finally make this dream a reality. Prior to our session, several trade and justice meetings at both the technical and ministerial level have been held to consider and adopt the AFCFTA legal instruments. I thank our experts and ministers for negotiating and agreeing on the text to be signed in this very room on the 21st of March, and we look forward to marking this time in the history of our continent. A few issues have been referred to us for consideration. I believe that the concerned ministers agreed to and adopted the substance of the AFCFTA legal instruments, and I believe that our duty as foreign ministers is to provide guidance on any outstanding matters and drive this process forward without getting into debates on legal and trade issues, which for many of us are outside our competence. With the adoption of the AFCFTA agreement, it will then be important for all our countries, hopefully, to sign it soon. We can proceed with speedy ratification and implementation, even as every country gets in its comfort zone to make this AFCFTA a reality. Indeed, this agreement is not just a simple document. It has critical economic implications for African populations. It will open up a market of 1.2 billion people with the possibility of generating enormous wealth on the continent through accelerated investment, economic diversification, and increased trade. As any agreement of this type, the drive is continental, the implementation can be gradual as long as we get where we want to go. However, we should realize that what we make of the AFCFTA is up to us. We are the member states of this beautiful organization, and we drive the process of development on this continent. We have the choice to translate vast potential into concrete reality, and each of us has to do their part. Our countries have to work on establishing the administrative, legal, and logistical structures that will make use of this great opportunity. Burdensome regulations, access, infrastructure networks, and simplification of customs processes are some of the practical challenges that must be addressed beyond the signing ceremony if we want to significantly increase intra-Africa trade. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the entire package of legal texts encompassing the AFCFTA protocols and annexes is a comprehensive instrument meant to help us build the Africa we want. For us in this room this morning, and many people outside this room this morning, the Africa we want is not just a slogan. It is a sincere wish, and we know that we will get it. An Africa where our companies would have the benefit of highly trained professionals using their innovative ideas to develop products according to best standards, using rules of origin that make it easier for their goods to qualify as originating products, face very few technical barriers to trade or non-tariff barriers, through efficient customs systems to cross borders while using world-class transportation and logistics systems to facilitate our continental trade. With the AFCFTA related agreements before all of us, we are now well armed to improve our social structures, to improve the livelihoods of even our poorest communities, and all of us have poor communities, and to develop regional and continental value chains to ensure prosperity and well-being for our people, all our people. We are well equipped to ensure a better future for future generations. Indeed, we should not forget either that this agreement plans to make Africa a more attractive destination for inward and foreign investment. As you know, phase 2 of the AFCFTA for this goal by addressing key trade issues such as competition, investment, and intellectual property rights. Your Excellencies, dear brothers and sisters, this agreement must enter into force as soon as possible, again, with everybody feeling comfortable about it. By signing and ratifying it, we would signal to the African people, first and foremost, and to the world at large, that we're determined to play our part as a global player while promoting the continent's economic interests through a single African market. This should not only provide increased bargaining power in future partnership agreements, as well as for our own business sector. To help secure the best deals for African businesses is part of what we want to achieve. We need those investments to generate jobs, badly needed jobs, and again, improve the lives of our populations. Looking further into Agenda 2063, we should also be reminded that the Continental Free Trade Area is one of several flagship projects alongside the Single African Air Travel Market and the free movement of people, whose overall impact on the continent's socio-economic development would be multiplied if undertaken. All flagship projects, such as the one submitted to us today. On the future of the ACP, which is part of the discussions later today, let me thank our ambassadors and high commissioners in Addis Ababa, Brussels, and Geneva, who have worked tirelessly to develop a common African position for our new cooperation framework with the European Union, replacing the ACP come the year 2020. The framework, as rightly proposed, should, among others, and Africa's engagement in priorities. It should also be a continent-to-continent framework, building on the already existing framework between Africa and Europe. This framework should fit with the times we live in today and, again, serve the interests of our side of the deal. Our partners. Celebrations expected on the 21st March 2018, in 2 days, as we launch the African Continental Free Trade Area. And I thank you for your attention.
Very much appreciated, Your Excellency. L'honneur me revient à présent d'inviter Son Excellence Madame Vera Songwe, secrétaire exécutive de la Commission économique des Nations Unies pour l'Afrique, bien vouloir venir prononcer son allocution.
Your Excellency, Mr. Musa Faki Mahamad, Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellency, Ms. Louise Mushakiwabo, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Cooperation and East African Community of the Republic of Rwanda and Chairperson of the Executive Council, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers and Members of States, Your Excellencies, Deputy Chairperson and the African Union Commissioners, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with a great honor and personal pleasure that I address this extraordinary meeting of the Executive Council. As Martin Luther King once said, we are not makers of history, we are made by history. And I think that this week in Kigali, I hope that our continent continues to be made by history and that its history becomes even better as we work hard to sign the Continental Free Trade Agreement. Trade is an important tool in international geoeconomics. We know from the history, particularly our continent, beginning with the presence of the British Empire and trade with Egypt. And at the end of the First World War, we had a different kind of trade and a discussion around trade agreements, which was then signed, and I think we will all remember that after the First World War, we ended up with the GATT. That was in 1947. After 1947, the United States became a much stronger power, and by 1944, we had the WTO, that also came, 1944, the GATT, and 1947, the WTO. We hope that 2018 will be the year where Africa makes history because Africa signs a Continental Free Trade Agreement that brings Africa into the global trade space as one continent and not as many countries. So let me start by, first of all, thanking all the ministers of trade and industry that have worked tirelessly for years to make sure that we come to this place today. I also want to thank all the teams from the different institutions, the WTO that helped us, the ECA, the African Union, and everyone else for bringing us to this point and hopefully taking us across. So let me start by saying that we are currently witnessing a very new and international dynamic in trade. And remember, when we talk about different trade agreements, they have always preceded moments of caution in the world, moments of depression. And then an empire is created and we get a trade agreement. Then there is a depression, and after the depression, we decide that trade should bring us together. I think on the continent, we are at that point where we are deciding that we are stronger if we trade together. And in trading together, we will ensure that some of the conflicts that abide and afflict our continent today will be abated. While the rest of the world is re-questioning the issue of trade and there is a rising tide of protectionism and anti-global believe in trade as a tie that binds. We have, for example, just 3 weeks ago, the US unilaterally announcing increases in steel and aluminum tariffs. Currently, Africa exports to the United States around 800 million in affected aluminum and steel products. This could affect the continent, but if we trade ourselves, within ourselves, and as we know, the demand for housing, the demand for cars on the continent is quite high, we could actually divert those uses onto the continent and grow intra-Africa trade. The United States has also threatened to revoke AGOA preferences for several East African countries, affecting around $450 million in trade. If the EAC countries do not reverse an industrialization plan to reduce imported second-hand clothing. Moreover, the Beyond AGOA agenda for negotiations being set by the US looks likely to target individual can-do African countries rather than respond to our regional groupings and integration agenda. We hope that with the CFTA, this will no longer be possible. At the same time, faith is currently ebbing in the multilateral trading system. The Doha round of WTO negotiations appears more dead than ever. With the British decision to leave the European Union in 2016, confidence in regional integration processes has also suffered a blow. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement can help Africa weather these international changes. It marks a fundamental consolidation and rationalization of African regional policy that lets us position ourselves better, collectively. We can wield the strength of the African continent better than we can individually. At a time when global trading systems seem so uncertain, it is just common sense for us to look at the opportunities closer to home. And we can make history as we do that and ensure that our youth have jobs for themselves. With the CFTA, Africa assures that it can claim its economic importance on the global stage. Obviously, the African Free Trade Agreement is a tremendous opportunity for business in Africa, but it is much more than this. One of the biggest challenges we face in Africa is in leveraging the tremendous latent resources of our large and growing young population. All too frequently, our youth are left underemployed in jobs that do not make the most of their potential. Yet our exports to countries outside the continent is dominated by capital-intensive goods, and especially petroleum fuels and extracted minerals. This produces little in the way of employment for the continent. Intra-Africa trade is different. It is far more labor-intensive. Manufactured goods account for 42% of intra-African exports, compared to just 14% of our exports to outside the continent. If we want to industrialize, if we want to diversify, if we want to create the needed jobs for our young populations, this is the way forward. The benefits are not limited to the manufacturing sector. The delivery of services now accounts for just under 60% of African GDP. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement also speaks to services. Through the progressive liberalization of the services sector, services suppliers will have access to the markets of all African countries on the same terms as they were domestic suppliers. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement also promises important benefits for women of the continent. Over 2/3 of the informal cross-border traders on this continent are women. These women currently face considerable challenges and risk, harassment and abuse, because they operate principally through informal networks. The African Free Trade Agreement will simplify the cross-border trading regime and create a better environment for traders in Africa. It will also enhance domestic resource mobilization, because as we trade more with each other, we can equally ensure that our current accounts improve and our revenues are increased as we transform these informal female traders into bona fide real private sector elements of our society that contribute their share to the government coffers and also benefit from the structures that are put to ensure that trade is free and fluid. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the assembly of our leaders from across the continent is a profound demonstration of commitment to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement at the highest policy-making level. It tells the world that when their faith is wavering, Africa has not lost its own faith in regional integration and the future of our continent. While we mark the important progress made, the road does not end here today. Critical steps remain. We must develop the national schedules for tariff reduction in trade, in goods, and for priority services. We must complete the annex on rules of origin. Above all, we must ensure that the agreement is ratified through our respective national processes. The challenge for us will be to see, and the world is watching, how many of us actually in 180 days are able to ratify the Continental Free Trade Agreement. I think that is the big challenge we pose to ourselves as we leave here this week. Moreover, we must do so speedily. We must not lose momentum and the buy-in of our leaders and policymakers and the private sector in particular. This essentially, after all, is for the private sector so that they can create jobs and ensure that our continent continues to grow. So let's work diligently, and ECA commits to continue working to ensure that we make those dates and make them with the pride that Africa deserves to have as we continue to make history and put Africa in history. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, honorable ministers, allow me to conclude by making one point, which basically just repeats what the minister has said on the post-Cotonou agreements between Africa and Europe. The negotiation is a landmark. And we must ensure that any other agreements that come alongside, behind, or with this ensure the harmony of the Continental Free Trade Agreement, ensure that Africa as one goes into these negotiations. As in 1944 and 1947, where Africa did not have that much of a seat when we discussed trade negotiations, I think 2018 will be the year when Africa begins to speak as one voice with the power that its economies yield on the discussions around trade. And we must ensure that the Continental Free Trade Agreement and every other agreement that comes behind it is protected within that framework. It goes almost without saying that the ECA stands ready to provide all the necessary support to the governments of Africa to make the Continental Free Trade Agreement a reality. And we must thank the African Union and all its associated parties, and especially the Commissioner on Trade, for all the work that he has allowed us to do so heartily together. Collectively, as policymakers and the private sector, we can ensure that the Continental Free Trade Agreement is effectively implemented for the benefits of all of Africa. In the land of 1,000 hills, where we stand today, let us together, as one community, ensure that as Rwanda has connected its hills, we ensure that the CFTA builds bridges that bind us more and delivers jobs and prosperity for our citizens. Again, we will be making Africa's history in 2018 if we sign the Continental Free Trade Agreement. Thank you very much for your attention.
Nous vous remercions, Excellence. Je voudrais enfin inviter Son Excellence M. Moussa Faki Mahamat, président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, à bien vouloir prononcer son discours.
Madame la Présidente du Conseil exécutif, notre très chère sœur Louise, Mesdames, Messieurs les ministres, Madame la secrétaire exécutive de la Commission économique des Nations unies pour l'Afrique, distingués représentants des communautés économiques régionales et organes de l'Union, chers partenaires, Mesdames, Messieurs, permettez-moi tout d'abord, au nom de la Commission de l'Union africaine, d'exprimer au gouvernement et au peuple rwandais notre profonde reconnaissance pour l'excellente organisation de nos travaux. Je suis sensible aux innombrables marques d'hospitalité, y compris la pluie, dont mes collègues et moi-même sommes l'objet depuis notre arrivée à Kigali. Mes remerciements vont également au ministre du Commerce et de l'Industrie, ainsi que ceux de la Justice, de tous nos États membres, aux négociateurs et experts qui ont travaillé sans relâche pour l'aboutissement du projet des zones continentales africaines de libre-échange. Nous tirons une grande fierté de leurs efforts et engagements. Vos travaux vont sans aucun doute amplifier et consolider les résultats par eux obtenus. Dans la constellation d'acteurs dont l'engagement a rendu possible les progrès accomplis, les efforts des membres du comité de représentants permanents méritent d'être relevés. Ils ont collectivement et individuellement donné le meilleur d'eux-mêmes. Je leur en suis reconnaissant. Leur unité, efficacité et sens de responsabilité ont permis, en parfaite coordination avec la Commission, le département du commerce et de l'industrie en particulier, de mettre en cohérence des apports aussi précieux que divers. De fait, les efforts de tous ont pu se conjuguer dans un bel élan panafricaniste. Les résultats sont là. Ils parlent d'eux-mêmes. Les rapports qui vous seront présentés l'attesteront certainement. Mesdames, Messieurs, depuis le lancement en juillet 2016 du processus de la réforme institutionnelle de l'Union africaine, qui vise à mettre notre outil à la hauteur de nos ambitions telles qu'articulées dans l'agenda 2063, nous sommes entrés de plein pied dans une dynamique d'accélération de l'entreprise d'intégration continentale. La zone africaine continentale de libre-échange, le marché unique sur le transport aérien en Afrique et le protocole sur la libre circulation des personnes et le passeport africain, ainsi que les grands projets d'infrastructures régionales et continentales, tels qu'articulés dans le programme de développement des infrastructures en Afrique, sont les piliers de cette entreprise. Tout a été dit sur la zone de libre-échange, sa fonction cruciale dans l'intégration africaine, son effet d'entraînement économique, la solidarité dont elle est le symbole face à d'autres blocs dans un monde où la compétition est féroce, son impact positif sur le bien-être de nos peuples, l'ouverture espérée d'immenses gisements d'emplois et les encourageantes perspectives d'épanouissement qu'elle offre à notre jeunesse. Les chiffres parlent d'eux-mêmes. La mise en place de la zone de libre-échange se traduira par la création d'un marché de plus d'1,2 milliard de personnes, avec un produit brut combiné de plus de 3 000 milliards de dollars. Elle induira un accroissement du commerce intra-africain de 52% à l'horizon 2022. Nos exportations industrielles et agricoles augmenteront de façon significative. Les potentialités dont notre continent est riche pourront enfin profiter à nos populations qui attendent désespérément que leur quotidien s'améliore de façon tangible et substantielle. Ce sont là autant de dividendes attendus de l'étape cruciale que devrait nous faire franchir le sommet extraordinaire de Kigali. Le contexte international, marqué par un affaiblissement inquiétant du multilatéralisme et des principes de solidarité entre les peuples, rendent cruciale la réalisation de ce projet phare. Mesdames, Messieurs, dès lors, une question, une seule, se pose de manière frontale à nous. Pouvons-nous nous dérober et décevoir tant d'attentes? Pouvons-nous accepter de prendre les risques, collectivement ou individuellement, de différer la mise en place de ces grands projets stratégiques? Au moment où le reste du monde se coalise et se consolide dans la défense résolue de ses intérêts stratégiques, nous n'avons d'autre choix que d'aller de l'avant. Nous devons surmonter nos peurs, nos contraintes nationales, aussi légitimes soient-elles, et les barrières qui peuvent naître d'interprétations trop restrictives de nos souverainetés. Nous devons offrir à la face du monde l'image d'une Afrique unie. Certes, quelques questions techniques restent à surmonter et se rapportent notamment à la nature du secrétariat de la zone de libre-échange, au nombre de ratifications requises pour l'entrée en vigueur de l'accord et à l'admissibilité des réserves. Mais ces considérations ne doivent pas nous faire perdre de vue le but recherché. D'autant que la plupart de ces questions, nous avons une pratique et une doctrine à peu près constantes. Mais ces considérations constantes, l'Afrique nous attend. Sa jeunesse, à juste titre impatiente, appelle de toutes ses forces des réponses concrètes à ses angoisses. Nos amis dans le monde croisent le doigt par peur de nos trébuchements. À l'inverse, nos adversaires et concurrents se délectent à l'idée d'un énième rapport annonciateur de l'hypothétique échec. Une décision, une seule, va soulager nos peuples et conforter certainement nos amis. Signer massivement, ratifier d'urgence et mettre scrupuleusement en application l'accord sur la zone de libre-échange. Nous devons déclarer devant nos peuples et à la face du monde entier le départ définitif du train à grande vitesse de la zone africaine continentale de libre-échange. Cette démarche doit aller de pair avec une action plus soutenue pour hâter la mise en place effective du marché unique pour le transport aérien en Afrique, ainsi que la signature et la ratification du protocole sur la libre circulation des personnes et le passeport africain. J'en appelle à tous les États membres pour qu'ils assument les responsabilités qui sont les leurs à cet égard. Aussi, les États qui ne se sont pas encore joints au marché aérien unique devraient le faire sans délai. J'invite tous nos États à prendre les dispositions requises pour être partie au protocole sur la libre circulation des personnes et le passeport africain. Mesdames, Messieurs, une autre tâche importante qui nous attend a trait à l'adoption d'une position commune sur les arrangements qui doivent succéder aux accords de Cotonou. Ceux-ci viennent à échéance en 2020. Cette négociation intervient dans un contexte particulier pour le continent. D'une part, l'Afrique s'est dotée, à travers l'agenda 2063, d'une vision à long terme pour la transformation et le développement socio-économique du continent. De l'autre, nous aspirons à parler d'une seule voix dans le dialogue avec nos partenaires pour garantir la prise en compte de nos préoccupations et la défense effective de nos intérêts. Dans cet exercice, la formulation de notre position commune doit certes prendre en considération des préoccupations à caractère régional et ou national, par ailleurs compréhensibles, eu égard à la diversité des statuts juridiques liant certains États de nos États membres à l'Union européenne. Il reste que cette position doit être élaborée dans le respect des aspirations contenues dans l'agenda 2063, de l'unité du continent et de la construction d'une relation d'égal à égal avec l'Europe. En somme, dans la négociation à venir, nous devons apporter la preuve de notre capacité à agir comme un bloc uni dans la défense des intérêts de notre continent. Mesdames, Messieurs, nous sommes à la veille d'une décision à tous égards historique. Elle exige de nous tous un engagement renouvelé au service des peuples de notre continent. Je vous invite à déployer vos intelligences, vos talents et à mobiliser toutes vos ressources intellectuelles, politiques et diplomatiques pour que l'immense résultat attendu de ces assises soit atteint. Lorsque nos chefs d'État et de gouvernement seront ici rassemblés après-demain pour cette cause, leur conférence doit être couronnée d'un grand et brillant succès. Avons-nous le droit de ne pas leur offrir ces beaux cadeaux pour lesquels, au sujet que nos pères fondateurs ont tant rêvé? Certains pourraient dire que je suis exagérément passionné pour le sujet. Ils n'ont pas tort, ils ont même peut-être raison. Comme l'a si bien dit un célèbre philosophe, rien de grand ne s'accomplit sans passion. Je vous invite avec fraternité à nous tenir la main dans la passion, à lancer et à mettre en place la zone de libre-échange, prélude à un grand, compétitif, fécond, dynamique et prospère marché continental. Je vous souhaite plein succès à vos travaux et vous remercie pour votre attention.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Excellences, distingués invités, nous sommes arrivés au terme de la cérémonie d'ouverture. Nous allons marquer une pause de 15 minutes. La présidente du Conseil dit 15 minutes, dont 5 pour la photo, parce que nous avons déjà pris du retard. Donc, la photo, sont concernés par la photo les ministres, chefs de délégation, les élus de la commission et bien évidemment la secrétaire exécutive de la CEA. Ils vont être dirigés par là, par le protocole. Donc, les ministres, les élus de la commission, Madame la secrétaire exécutive de la CEA, vous allez vous faire conduire par le protocole de ce côté. Les ambassadeurs, vous avez votre pause café à l'auditorium club. Et le reste des délégués dans la salle des pas perdus à l'entrée. Donc nous avons 15 minutes en gros, parce que nous avons déjà pris du retard. Je vous remercie.